encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. This is the Light Network.
You know what time it is, no matter where you've been. So let's do it again. Listen up and let the sun shine in. We've got soul training. Time to practice what you preach. Ooh, yeah. Yes, we do. We've got soul training.
And here's Daniel, Alan, and Joe.
Joe, how do you feel right now?
I'm feeling great.
Really?
How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel great. If you didn't know your birth year, how old do you think you would feel? How old do you think you would be right now? If you didn't know your birth year, how old do you think you would be?
I don't really understand the question.
Okay.
I guess, I feel pretty good. I don't know, 20.
Okay, what age do you feel right now?
I feel 30. I don't
So
know.
you're trying to do the Satchel Paige thing. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
Also, it's a Toby Keith thing too. Don't let the old man in. It's a song he wrote.
Yeah, I don't feel old.
He wrote it for Clint Eastwood, by the way. But if you didn't know your birth year, how old would you?
Well, it varies by day. Today, I'll probably feel 35 today.
Okay, well, that's great. That's great. Well, I'll answer my question then. I'm older than you all are, but I wish I did not know how old I was. I really wish I did not. But I feel
soon you'll forget.
I will. You got that right. That's one of the keys to our 25-year marriage is my wife and I can't remember what we were mad about this morning. So we get along a lot better.
There you go.
Works out. Great. I would say I would probably feel probably 40. But see, I've bought into the idea. I know I'm 52, and I'm thinking, man, it's and then I buy into arthritis, I'm hurting, but I wish I didn't know how old I was. My point is, I'm pro youth. I love youth. I've been with kids professionally for 31 years, and I think the future is bright. I never wanted to be one of those people who was always down on the next generation. I've been around those people. They just like, whoa, the world's over. This next generation, they're
These
horrible. These kids today.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, those kind of things. And so I never have been one of those people. I feel like the best and the brightest are right now. And that's why I'm excited that we have our new youth minister here at our congregation. He's going to talk about the best and the brightest. And he's connected to this current generation that I believe in, that I'm so optimistic about. And it's pronounced Scott Simons, but I'm not going to lie. See, I'm going to use a current cool phrase that I hear my kids use. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. When I saw Scott's last name the very first time.
Is that a new phrase? I feel like that's been around 30 years.
Well,
I was expecting.
I guess I hear it a lot more.
Like skibbity or Riz or bruh.
Yeah, I can do bruh all day long. I do bruh all the time. I can do a lot of stuff for you. Anyhow, see, you got me off topic. It's not my fault. But
sorry, bro.
That's all right. No, it's bruh. But we got when I first saw Scott's last name, I thought, am I using phonetics? Is it Simone? Is it Simmons? Is it Simon? But it's Scott Simons, and I've gotten to know Scott a little bit, so I'm thankful he's here with us, and he's going to tell us all the great things that's happening with our new and current generation.
He's going to make us all feel really old. I have a feeling what's going to happen. But
maybe
not. But anyhow, Scott, welcome to Soul Training. We're glad to have you here.
Thank y'all for having me.
I think where we should start is Alan and Daniel and I, we kind of understand our generations, but
somewhat.
But Scott is in between, like where our kids are. Well, Alan's kids might be closer to this, but yours and mine are a little bit younger than him. You've got one daughter that's close.
Yeah.
But Scott, help us as old men here.
Watch it.
I included myself, understand a little bit of the differences of our generations. Like in our generation, we had, growing up, all my friends, we just went to church. We knew there was God. You went to church. That's just what you did. Now, not everybody went to a Church of Christ. Not everybody believed the same thing I did, but it was kind of given. There were some outliers, but for the most part, everybody seemed to be somewhat religious where I grew up. Is that true of your generation?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of becoming a big movement now. Like back in a few years ago, my age group, it didn't really talk about, religion. You didn't really talk about faith unless you knew that person was, a religious person or was okay with it. Like there's still people that are still very, aggressive towards people of faith that still just have very mixed feelings about any kind of religion at all. But more recently, I think it was somewhat recently after COVID, there was a big movement in just the religious movement. Not necessarily Church of Christ Christianity, but there have been a lot of Christian movement, Christian apologetic movement to convert people to believe that there is a God, there is a Christ, there is a Messiah, and that he has sacrificed himself for our salvation. And so there's been a lot of that movement. There's these guys that I really enjoy watching. They go to college campuses. It's Cliff and Stuart Connectley, who, while I don't agree with everything they talk about, they are very, very good at, just simplifying the gospel down, simplifying the Bible down to a very, very basic understanding where people can understand it, and having moral arguments with people or debates with people, but still getting them to the biblical truth that is God. And so they're very good about, going out into the world where people don't normally talk about that. There's other guys that, there's one guy that's really famous on YouTube who will go to talk to people that are, in gay bars or in, that are very, in the world and that are Satan, worshipers or whatever. But he will go and talk to them about the Bible because there's no one else talking to them.
He goes to them.
Yeah, he goes out to them, and he has really pushed a lot of other people to be very vocal about going out to people. And it's been such a cool thing to see people making that movement towards Christianity and being more open-minded towards the church and towards the Bible.
Sometimes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because sometimes it seems like we wait for people to come to us. Well, that's not what Jesus did. So it makes sense that we would go, well, if he's the great physician, he went to the people who were sick, right?
He was available.
He was there. He was available.
Yeah,
and so
I like Luke 15:1-2, that people drew near to hear him, tax collectors and sinners, so he was available.
He was available, and he knew who needed to hear him. Also, being a youth minister, Daniel brought, I didn't know that they had a name yet, but apparently there's a Gen Alpha now.
Yep.
And that's the younger kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you seeing?
I wonder why Alpha. So I think
Well, because
Alpha.
they're Gen
Z.
Z, so they had to go with something else.
I'm thinking about, dog psychology. I'm thinking about Alpha as somebody that's the baddest guy in the room, and I'm not.
Yeah, no, they're going, I guess,
Yeah,
to
this next generation.
like
Well,
Greek
whenever
letters.
they started Generation X, they didn't think this was going to keep going on and on and on. They ran out of
Exactly.
letters.
So
Which I guess you're actually millennial, aren't you?
I'm
kind of
like
upper end.
super top oldest millennial.
Yeah.
What am I? I'm 52.
You're Gen X, solid. I'm technically Gen X, but I'm that like micro generation in between Gen X and millennial. That sometimes they call them Zennials.
So we've got several generations here. But Gen Alpha, how do they differ from Gen Z religiously?
Yeah, so they're not at that age group where they're really thinking, like the ones that aren't growing up in the church, they're not necessarily there at that moment where they're concerned with eternity. They're not concerned with their faith just yet, but they're very open to it. Like they're very, very open to the idea of it. They're very open to going into it. But there's also parents that have had mixed feelings about the church, that maybe have been hurt by the church before and don't want their kids to be a part of that. Or they've seen friends that have gotten into that. I think the biggest killer for the church with younger people is the idea that Jesus accepts us as we are and is okay with us living that way. And that is the biggest killer, because there's so many people that will start to get into the, believing in God, believing in Christ. But then when it gets to the point of, okay, well, I have to leave this old life that I have behind, they're not willing to do that, or they're not willing to accept it because they've got a friend that's, maybe they've got a friend that's gay and they don't want to leave that, have to be no longer friends with them or have to tell that friend that they're living wrongly. They don't want to do that. And they're like, well, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Or you're telling me my parents are not going to go to heaven because they're not baptized. Well, then I don't want to be a part of this. Like, they're very scared that Jesus won't accept, because there's been such a movement that Jesus accepts you as you are. You just have to believe him or whatever, and you're good. And that's just not simply the truth. And so that's the biggest killer for us, where we have to show them, like, the Bible teaches us that Jesus loves you, and he is welcoming you as you are, but he asks you to change. He doesn't ask you to stay as you are. He asks you to leave behind the old life that you did, put it to death, and to follow him as the new being.
Yeah, come as you are, but don't stay as you are.
Exactly. Like, we have to, we welcome everyone. Like, one of the saddest moments I had in high school was a high school teacher that we had that was really involved with the youth, pulled like the seniors or the juniors aside, like the guys, and said, all right, I need y'all to be more welcoming to people, because there are so many students I have that are so, they're very open arms with me. They love to talk with me about the church, but they're like trans, or they're gay, or they're, living these lifestyles that I know if I invited them to church and they walked in those doors, not one of you would welcome them to sit next to you. Not one of them would have anyone to sit next to, because you would all be scared of them, and you would all look at them and judge them heavily. And that was like a killer to me, because I would just think, man, like, I probably wouldn't. Like, I would sit there from my seat. I wouldn't like tell them they couldn't sit next to me, but if they're not coming next to me, I'm not trying to get next to them.
The Bible speaks almost exactly that point. We're talking about this person, oh, we want you to have a good seat, and this person, no, you sit somewhere else.
Exactly.
It preaches against that. That's not how we should act. Okay, well, very good. So one it's not the only criteria for a growing church, but one thing people look at when they look at growing churches is age. Everybody wants younger people, because it's but naturally will grow because they're having children and that sort of thing. Do you have any advice for the people, is what I call our audience, or Daniel says a little nicer, dear listeners, for our dear listeners or the people? You have any advice on how they can reach those younger people? Do we, like you mentioned, do we need to rely on our young people that we have here to recruit younger folks? Do we need to be having conversations with their parents? Do we need to be doing all of it? What do you think is going to be the most successful approach?
I think the biggest thing is encouraging those people in that age group to evangelize. I think, if it's a young adult that's, just graduated college, encourage them to go evangelize to people that they see, or that they, they just graduated with, or that they're going into new jobs that they're going to, connect with at their new jobs, or whatever it may be. But if it's like, students, encourage them to connect and evangelize to their fellow students, because that's such a huge encouragement to them to see, okay, it's not just this preacher that's beating you over the head with the Bible, but it's truly this kid that believes it and is wanting me to be a part of it. Now, they may kind of be discouraged by the church in some way, and so they may be scared, but I think one of the best things that we can do as a church is to have a multitude of events. I like to, put my youth ministry with many different things. Obviously, we have class Sunday morning and class Wednesday night, other than just church. But then we're also going to start doing devos once a week, and I hope that that's something that they can invite their friends to get them introduced to the Bible. But maybe they have friends that are just so against the church that they don't even want to do that. Well, we're going to have random events where we're just going to have fun, where we're just going to literally go rock climbing, or we're going to go hiking, or we're going to go kayaking, or, we're going to go do a scavenger hunt, or whatever. We're going to go see the movies, whatever it may be, where it's literally something so simple that they don't have to, have any background in the Bible. They don't have to, be worried that they're going to be beat over the head with Scripture, but they can have fun, and they can see that church people can have fun. Like, I think so many times they think of the Church of Christ or certain denominations where they think, oh, they don't have any kind of fun. They just, wear suits, and they, read their Bibles, and they sit quietly while they get preached to every week, and that's all they do. But in reality, we have fun events too. We have fun times, and we can have fun in this life too. So they get to see the fun times. They get to slowly get integrated and have a connection with these people. And as they slowly start to get more integrated with that, they slowly get more interested in it, and it slowly gets more people involved, and more people want to be, included in this.
Have you seen that and I'm sorry to hog the interview here, guys. If y'all have something y'all speak. Alan, you still with us?
Yes.
Alan's feverishly taking notes again over there. I totally derailed my train of thought. It derailed.
That's what happens when you get older.
I'm getting older. So, Alan, before we started recording here, we're talking a little bit, and you've mentioned that we've retained some younger folks here that have grown up here. Maybe they've converted and come here. Scott, how do we, as older guys, older people, get those younger folks involved in some of the different ministries that we have going on?
I think just giving them opportunities and then telling them where they're needed. Like I've been taught at school, when you need adult volunteers, don't put up a sign-up sheet. Just ask. Just literally tell people who you need to help out. Like, hey, I need you, Joe. I need you to help me do this. Hey, Daniel, I need you to do this for me. And they're more likely to help you out, but there's so many times they don't feel like they are needed, or they're kind of worried like that's not their position yet. And a lot of these younger people, they're maybe eager to help out, but they just don't feel like that's their position yet. They don't want to overstep, or maybe they're kind of, okay with where they're at. They're okay with coasting, but when they're asked to help out, they will. They just literally need someone to encourage them to help out. So getting them more involved and getting them plugged in, having them do, helping out with the Lord's Supper, having them help read scripture and be a part of worship, or maybe having them teach a Bible class every once in a while to get them more integrated with being a leader in the church and training them up, so that when they get a little older, they can become deacons for the church, and then maybe even elders once they're like at that age. But getting them integrated where they be more involved, and you don't have to train them anymore. You don't have to ask them to be leaders. They're going to do it anyway. And other kids their age, or other people that are just younger than them, are going to look to them as leaders, that are going to want to be like them and want to raise up to be leaders like them.
One thing that it occurred to me while Scott was talking is, so to a certain extent, the three of us on Team Soul Training, we grew up with a little bit of technology. Like, I remember when the internet came along. I'm sure you guys do too.
Right.
I remember when we didn't have it, which really dates us. Scott and folks younger than him never experienced that. They've always had it. So naturally, they're going to be better at it than what we are.
I remember when call waiting was a big deal.
I do too.
That was huge. We got it, call
That was a
waiting.
big deal. So I got somebody on the other line. Hold on. I remember that.
I like when it would display on your television.
And you got kids come along now that will never know the world without AI.
Right. And so my point is, it seems, let's correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but it seems like we need to capitalize that as Christianity. And that's one way we should be able to work to get our younger folks involved. I don't know how to do AI stuff, but I bet someone younger than me does. Someone knows how to spread the gospel in that manner. For congregations out there not knowing how to do things, if you've got younger people, it might be worthwhile just asking them, hey, you're younger, I know you have these skills. Is there anything you could do to put the gospel out there? We've got this podcast, right? We're trying to put the gospel out there in this manner. There are other manners. I don't know anything about TikTok or what's the thing now, Scott?
I think that is. I'm not on TikTok. I think it's too much. Yeah.
Well,
You can get recipes on TikTok.
can you?
Yeah, I got them. I'm in.
Okay.
Bruh.
So maybe we need to talk to Alan about our TikTok program.
Bruh.
But bruh. But my point is, maybe they have some talents we don't have because we didn't have the opportunity to develop those talents because the thing didn't exist. We need to look for ways to get them involved. Maybe be creative. Maybe ask them for ways that they can help.
Yeah, there's a guy I grew up with who just finished up an internship in Madison, Alabama, where he was the media intern. He was he worked with them and worked with their media minister to make outreach through media outputs, whether it be through social media, whether it be through making posts, making different one thing they did, they had a series over like the kings of the Old Testament or other major people in the Old Testament, and they made like trading cards for their little kids to have. And that was his old deal, where he used AI to write like a short little thing through their lesson notes. The AI would write the little description on the card and make a picture for him, just something like that. And he has done so much through that summer, but he's also now interviewing to become one of those kind of positions full time here soon, where that's going to be his full time job, is outreaching through media outputs and like looking through AI and the new stuff that comes out and finding ways to plug in. Now, not every church is going to be able to support a guy to be full-time there as a job, but we can look to those guys that have that kind of talent and say, how can we minister through that? How can you help us minister to other people using those talents, and let them be creative? Let them find outlets to use their creative minds, to use what they have, and let them be creative. Let them look online and steal ideas. I think that's one of the things that the church is great at, is stealing ideas that work from other churches and looking to use it for everyone's benefit, for the glory of God. But looking for ways they can be creative and find different ways, because there's no one right answer. It all works if it's all glorifying God, if it's reaching out to people, even if it brings one person that's more interested in Christ. I think it's a success. So giving them ways to be interested and creative. I think we've got some kids here at South Green that are very interested, that are somewhat technologically minded and have been involved in that stuff already. But just trying to give them avenues to be creative in that way, encouraging them to do those things for that.
I think that's good. But through it all, the basic appeal of the gospel, basic appeal of Christianity, is something that is timeless and has been timeless for 2,000 years. Across generations. Sometimes it's packaged a little bit differently. It's presented a little bit differently, contextualized differently would be the way to say it. But really, what the thing that we do better than the world, we can do a lot of things that the world does, just not quite as good as the world does it, But the thing that we can do better than the world is the love that we have for one another.
Right.
And so, like, even with stuff we do with the kids, like, we want to have fun, but the fun is almost the side effect. The real purpose is the relationship building, so they grow to love each other that much more, and they have fun while they're doing that. And as you're talking about bringing people in and being accepting, everybody, regardless of generation, wants to be loved and accepted. Mm-hmm. And now, understanding that Jesus, like you were talking about earlier, Jesus accepts us like we are as we start, but he's not going to leave us that way. He's going to change us.
Right.
But that same basic appeal, I think that's got to drive everything we're doing, and we don't want to lose touch with that as we contextualize it. Does that make sense?
Right. One thing that I did this past summer for an internship, I was over the Wednesday night series, and it was a very, topical series. It was a very fun series, and I was really struggling how to make it work for my first class, and I was writing it out. And my youth minister that was working for me, that I was working under, he just said, "Don't overcomplicate it. Just teach the Bible." Mm-hmm. They're not going to be mad if you just teach the Bible. And that was something I had completely gone over my head for so long until he said that. And I just, it snapped, how is that taking me so long to figure out? But kids are so interested in the stories of the Bible, and the stories and the words of the Bible are so true even to this day, that we just teach it. They're going to eat it up. They're going to love it. Now, we have to sometimes find ways that are more interesting to them, or maybe a little bit more, applicable to them, and find ways to make them see it in their lives. But once they start to get into it more and more, they're going to see it on their own more and more. And so for that series, I would, just teach the story and barely touch on what the whole series was about, but really just focus on the Bible. The series took a back seat, and the Bible took the front seat, and that should have been it from the front, from the beginning, what I should have been looking at. But it took me so long, and when he said that, that's been the forefront of everything I do. Is, okay, is this becoming too much on this fun thing that we're doing, or is there a biblical aspect? So like we said, the fun events, those are awesome. We don't have to have a Devo at those. But is the drive behind this to build relationships and to maybe give them avenues to invite kids, or are we just wanting to go see a movie? Is the avenue for this to encourage them to be a part of this and to, make sure that I'm making connections with the newcomers that can show up, or the kids that I don't get to see a lot? Or is it I just want to go rock climbing and get that paid for or whatever? The avenue behind everything is the ministry of God, the ministry of the church. And so whatever we're doing, we have to look to evangelize and to spread the gospel in any way. And it's slow steps every time, but if we're not working towards that, we are failing in our jobs. We are all failing in our jobs if we're not working towards that every day.
I think that's great advice, and I like that approach to Bible class. Too many times I've seen churches treat the Bible like it's the medicine that you got to hide in the cheese,
Right.
to get the dog to eat it, and it's not like it's.
I always gave my dog bologna.
Did you? Alan,
Okay.
you look like somebody's been giving you cheese a lot. You just figured, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Why do you keep giving me cheese?
I do like your metaphor. I do like it.
Yeah, but they need the Bible, and kids like being taught the Bible. I mean, my kids, when we visit a lot of different places as we're traveling around, and I always ask my kids, what they've learned in Bible class, and they are always so disappointed when they come back and don't have anything biblical to tell. Like they're like, we didn't even open the Bible in class today, and so like my kids, I don't think they're weirdos. Kids still, the Bible still connects with them. If it's, you need to present it right, like you're talking about.
And there's nothing wrong with sometimes using a movie, situation where we, relate it back to a movie or to a very famous show or whatever to relate it to them sometimes when they can't see that relation or they think this story means nothing for me, but you relate it in a fun way to maybe, include people that aren't very biblically integrated already, not very biblically knowledge yet. But there's so many times I agree. I scroll through Instagram and I get a lot of other churches that are on my feed, and there's a lot of these non-denominational churches that have this series called At the Movies, where they really decorate their lobby to be very movie theater-esque, and they do their whole sermon series over movies. But it's almost like, okay, I haven't watched them, so maybe they're doing really good about touching on the movies, but really touching on the Bible more. But so many people have said they focus so much on the movies and then they just barely read some scripture. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to, be very, movie-esque and tell this story through a movie lens and then relate it back to scripture. But what's taking the forefront? Is the Bible taking the forefront, or is this fun event taking the forefront? Because again, we have to make sure what we're doing is ministering to the glory of God, not to inviting people in and hoping that they'll just listen. We have to get them to listen to the word, not to this fun thing that we're trying to present.
I think you and Daniel got in my notes. That's exactly what we had led with before we got started, and that's kind of where I was going, building up to this point. Find ways to be the church outside of the building. That's one of my goals, and maybe it is my age. I always talk about how much I love the current generation and the next generation. I love the youth, but I never wanted to be that guy where I'll just as I get old and cranky. But I do, that is a concern I have, is that as I continue to live older or become older, I'm not talking about our congregation, but I do see maybe some youth connected institutions, and I'll just be general, that it becomes more about the fun stuff, the activities, and all those things. And nobody likes having fun more than me. I love having fun, but that seems to overshadow what the church is about. And then you end up with a product, i.e., a young person who can't hold a Bible study. You end up with a young person who doesn't know how to go minister to somebody. Well, because the whole 5 years I was in the youth group, we was going to movies and, snow sledding or whatever you do, that kind of stuff. So I like to hear, I'm encouraged to hear that. I'm glad Daniel weaved those things in too. And I guess for me, I told you all before we got started that I can't swim because I don't get in the water.
You said that was top secret.
Really?
People listen to this show, I'm telling you.
Well, I know. Sorry. See, it's my age setting in on me again.
Okay.
See?
Well, now they all know.
I can't swim. So, so if you see me in the water, pull me back. But
you're not there willfully. You need help.
So, yeah, I wandered.
Last time Alan was in the water was when he was baptized.
I wandered to the water. But I don't get in the water. So how do we teach our and then you've already touched on some of that, and I just wanted to share something. How do we get our middle schoolers and our high schoolers to get involved? Well, I think by getting in the water. I took my children to any kind of ministry I was ever involved with. I'm like, you're not staying home. No, you're coming. You're going to the soup kitchen. You're going with me. You're putting on an apron. We toured the jail. You're going with me. We go to the funeral home. You're going with me. Those kind of things. And I haven't got a lot right, but they got to see that side. And I'll ask you all, how do you spell love? How do you spell love? Not how you think. How would you spell love?
Jesus?
Yes, but in context of how do we show our next generation to maybe get outside the building and to be more connected to the Great Commission, love is spelled Time, time. I mean, and I love AI technology and I love all of those things. We had a good discussion about cell phones and all those things. But at the end of the day, kids want people to spend time with them, whether it's parents, church staff, intergenerational folks in our congregation. They want somebody to spend time with them, to go participate in all these activities that they're helping other people along the way. So I think in order to get our young kids grown up in service, so we have to demonstrate time. We have to pour into them, and that's how we love them, is we spend time with them.
Yeah, it's important for us to understand that, not every generation does things the same way. But I think you're correct. Every generation does appreciate somebody taking time out to be with them.
Sure. And I while I was writing feverishly, I've learned this. We need to capitalize on this. People, humanity, Christians really want to serve. They really do. I think our young kids, they want to go serve and help people who are struggling, and they want to show compassion. And so you have already touched on the creating those opportunities so they can go love people.
That's a strength of the younger generations, is they
want to serve.
Yeah, and they're called to be authentic in their beliefs. They like you said, they want to serve.
They want to get in the water.
It sounds like really this Scott's generation and the generation, people a little older, a little younger than him, there's a great big opportunity there. They're already interested in religion. We just have to present the gospel to them.
Yep.
And let the word do its thing. And
already, statistically, they are becoming more religious than the millennials were.
Yeah. Well, I told you guys before, just looking at the demographics of folks that listen to Soul Training, it's pretty even across the board. And so younger folks are interested, because I'm seeing it actually happening just with this podcast, is that younger folks are listening.
They want something different.
Yeah, right. We're that.
Yeah. I think so.
I think so. So one last thing I had for you, Scott. I'm going to ask you if there's any resources for congregations out there to maybe help them reach out to the younger generation. But before I do, I'm pulling an Alan here. I'm going to ask a question and then immediately answer it before anybody else has an opportunity. You do that sometimes.
I do.
Yeah, you've done it before.
Really?
But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm learning from you. Older generation teaching younger generation. Me.
That's good.
So
I think that is flattering.
It should be. There's a YouTube channel called Expedition Bible. Have you seen it? It's an archaeologist, a guy by the name of Joel Kramer, who wrote a book, Where God Came Down. And what he does is he goes and he makes videos of places that you wouldn't really think about having any kind of archaeological footprint. Like, for instance, Mamre. Does Mamre mean anything to you? Do y'all know? It's where Abraham pitched his tent at Mamre, right outside of Hebron, I think, is where it was.
Yeah.
There's kind of some decent archaeological circumstances to let you know where Mamre is. And so nobody thinks to look where where Abraham pitched his tent and talked to a couple of guys and told them they were going to have a baby. But you can reasonably find that place. I mean, there's not a sign there. Abraham didn't put up a sign, welcome to Mamre, but you can kind of see where it's at. Yeah. Also, like Jericho, he goes to Jericho.
I've been there.
You've been to Jericho.
Yeah.
Did you see the walls where they had fallen down?
Yeah.
And they had fallen down outwardly, not inwardly into the city. They fell down outwardly. That way people could go up them like steps to get into the city and take over. You don't really think about it. But this guy at Expedition Bible, Joel Kramer, you can watch his videos. And Daniel, I had one of your sons in my class, and he ate that stuff
Oh,
up.
he loved it. He's talking about it all the time.
He loved it, and I love it. And my boys like it too. I don't know if they love it as much as I do, but they like it. But that's something to relate the Bible. It's something real that you can see using YouTube, which they all want to be on, showing them what the Bible says is true.
You know, because of archaeology, we know more about the first century now than any generation since the first century.
I'm sure, because they didn't start digging until like the past, 60, 75
Yeah.
years, something like that. And so that's why there's all these digs going on right now, because they weren't able to do that before. But Scott, back to my original question. I know I'm full circle.
See, he's answered it multiple
I know.
times.
Are there any resources for congregations out there to reach out to younger people, maybe to connect? Any YouTube sites? You mentioned, what was it? Connectly?
Yeah, Cliff and Stuart Connectly, they do a really good job of showing you how you can have a biblical conversation.
Now, doctrinally, we're going to disagree with them doctrinally.
Right. I don't know. I haven't watched like every single thing they put out, so I don't know what all they believe, but on a very basic general understanding, they're really good about, debating, and not even debating, just talking through the Bible with other people that don't believe, and some people that are very aggressive towards them. They do a really good job of staying calm. And so watching that and showing people how to stay calm during that time when people are not going to be very nice to you, that's super helpful for them. I like watching the Bible Project a lot of times when you want to just get through a very basic understanding of the whole book of a certain Bible, of a certain book of the Bible. It goes really in depth, but it also doesn't hit every single point. It just goes through the main points, and it goes very quickly, and it does such a good job of being artistic and creative where it captures your attention for so long, and you don't even realize how quickly 30 minutes have passed, but you've learned so much through that. I know my youth minister, Philip Jenkins, he wrote a book called Take Root, where it shows you how to go through a Bible study with someone, whether they, know the Bible or whether they have no idea what the Bible is and they've never touched religion ever. And it does a really good job of taking you the steps through how to have a Bible study with someone.
And where you get that on Amazon or something?
I think you can just order them through him. He has an email. I don't know it off the top of my head, but
Reach out to us. We'll get you in contact with him to get those books. Philip Jenkins, Take Root.
Yeah,
I got his number.
Yeah,
Don't give his number out.
He won't mind.
I bet he would.
No, he does a really good job, and those books do a really good job of showing you how to have that Bible study when it's super, nerve-wracking for anyone to do. Even, I'm sure someone that's done it tons of times, it's still kind of nerve-wracking on how to do that. And then there's just tons of other stuff. I know the Anxious Generation, a lot of people talk about. I have not read through the whole book yet.
My wife is reading it right now.
I know it's been really talked about, and a lot of people love that book. I love the Lunch Ladies book, also by Philip. I got to live it out, through high school. We had a program where we would meet together as high schoolers before Wednesday class, and we would talk about people that needed to be reached out to, whether they are from the church and they just haven't been coming for a while, or whether we've been just inviting them to come to church for the first time.
I use that with adults too.
Mm-hmm. It's something that is so prevalent for the whole church as a whole that we need to look to be the lunch ladies. As he talked about, the kid that no one sits next to, the lunch ladies go sit next to. We need to be those people that are reaching out to the people that aren't being reached out to, and looking for ways that we can reach out better. And that's just such a good book for anyone to read about evangelism, about how to constantly be reaching out and encouraging one another to be evangelizing out. So there's tons of other stuff. I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff that I've read that I've thought is so cool and so interesting, but there's a ton of stuff that, you can just look through any kind of books that are on ministry, and I'm sure they've got really good information.
So sometimes I do this. I'm going to try and recap this episode in just a couple phrases, right? 1, we need to be aware of generational differences. 2, there's a very strong opportunity with this younger generation, the teenagers, 20-somethings, very strong opportunity because they're already interested in it. 3, we need to spend time with them and have personal interest in them. And then what's a good fourth point? You guys are preachers.
I can give you a fourth point.
Give me a fourth point.
But with 3 R's.
That's 7. No, that'd be 6 points. Go ahead.
Rigor that you've talked about, relevance, which is a connection, and relationships.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Pin drop. Okay. Does that work, Scott?
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate.
Okay. I have
I like it.
nothing else.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you for being a part of Soul Training today. Thank you, dear listener, for letting us be a part of your spiritual conversation. And we hope that you enjoyed the podcast and ask you to give it a 5-star rating, give it a review. It helps people find it and share it with others. And we want to thank the elders at the South Green Street Church of Christ for making Soul Training possible. On behalf of Alan and Joe, I'm Daniel. Until next time, keep soul training.
Soul training. Time to practice what you preach. Ooh, yeah. Yes, we do. We've got soul training.
To learn more, you can email us at soultrainingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can write to us, P.O. Box 503, Glasgow, Kentucky, 42142. That's Soul Training.